Guaicaipuro rose as a leader in the lush valleys and rugged mountains surrounding what is now Caracas. At a time when the indigenous world of northern South America was being violently reshaped by Spanish invasion, he was a cacique of the Tec people, but his influence extended far beyond a single tribe. In a region fragmented by geography and long-standing rivalries, Guaicaipuro recognized that survival would require unity. The arrival of Spanish conquistadors in the mid-16th century made that reality unmistakably clear. Armed with steel, horses, and an unrelenting hunger for land and labor, the Spanish believed they could impose their rule through intimidation and force. What they encountered instead was a leader who understood that empire could only be resisted through coordination, strategy, and collective defiance. Before the Spanish arrived, the peoples of the Caracas Valley lived in complex societies tied closely to the land. They farmed, hunted, traded, and defended their territories with deep knowledge of the terrain. Guaicaipuro grew up within this world, learning not only how to fight, but how to lead. Leadership among his people was earned through courage, judgment, and the ability to protect the community. When Spanish settlers began pushing inland from the coast, enslaving indigenous people and claiming land for encomiendas, Guaicaipuro quickly grasped the scale of the threat. These were not temporary raiders. They were settlers intent on permanent occupation. Resistance would need to be organized, sustained, and uncompromising. Guaicaipuro's greatest strength lay in his ability to unite rival groups under a shared purpose. He forged alliances with neighboring leaders such as Tiuna, Chacao, Guaicaipuro, and Paramak, creating a confederation capable of challenging Spanish forces militarily. This unity was unprecedented in the region. Tribes that had once competed over resources now coordinated attacks, shared intelligence, and fought as a single force. Guaicaipuro understood that Spanish power depended on isolating indigenous communities and defeating them one by one. By denying the Spaniards that strategy, he shifted the balance of the conflict. The war between Guaicaipuro's confederation and the Spanish was brutal and relentless. Spanish expeditions attempting to secure the Caracas Valley were met with constant ambushes. Indigenous warriors struck supply lines, attacked isolated settlements, and vanished into forests and mountains where European tactics failed. The Spanish, unfamiliar with the terrain and dependent on narrow routes of movement, found themselves under continuous pressure. Guaicaipuro turned the land itself into a weapon. Every ravine, river crossing, and jungle path became a potential trap. Fear spread among the colonists as attacks came without warning, and no place felt truly secure. One of the most significant confrontations occurred during Spanish efforts to establish permanent control over the valley. Spanish commanders believed that eliminating Guaicaipuro would collapse the resistance. Repeated attempts were made to capture or kill him, but he proved elusive. Protected by both his warriors and his intimate knowledge of the landscape, each failed expedition emboldened the Confederation and reinforced his reputation as an untouchable leader. Among indigenous communities, Guaicaipuro became a symbol of defiance. Among the Spanish, his name became synonymous with danger. Despite Spanish firepower, the resistance endured for years. Guaicaipuro's forces inflicted heavy losses and repeatedly disrupted colonial plans. However, the Spanish adapted. They began exploiting rivalries, offering rewards for betrayal, and launching surprise attacks under cover of darkness. Eventually, they resorted to deception. Spanish soldiers tracked Guaicaipuro to a village where he was resting, believing they had finally found an opportunity to strike decisively. Under the cover of night, they launched a surprise assault, setting fire to dwellings and attacking before his warriors could fully mobilize. Guaicaipuro fought fiercely during the attack, but the suddenness and scale of the assault overwhelmed his defenses. He was killed in the flames of his own settlement, a death intended to crush the spirit of resistance. The Spanish believed that with Guaicaipuro gone, the confederation would fracture and submission would follow. Once again, they misunderstood the nature of indigenous resistance. His death did not end the struggle. It transformed him into a martyr whose legacy fueled continued defiance. In the years that followed, indigenous resistance in the Caracas region continued under other leaders inspired by Guaicaipuro's example. Although Spanish colonization ultimately imposed control through relentless violence, disease, and demographic collapse, it never achieved the easy conquest it expected. Guaicaipuro's confederation delayed Spanish expansion, inflicted significant losses, and forced colonial authorities to recognize that domination would come at a high cost. Guaicaipuro's legacy extends far beyond the battlefield. In Venezuela, he is remembered as a foundational figure of resistance, a leader who refused to accept the erasure of his people. His name endures in monuments, public memory, and national identity, representing indigenous strength and sovereignty. He stands as a reminder that colonization was not a one-sided process of submission, but a contested struggle, shaped by leaders who understood the stakes and acted decisively. What makes Guaicaipuro's story especially powerful is his vision of unity. He recognized that no single tribe could withstand empire alone. By building alliances across cultural and political boundaries, he created a model of resistance that would echo across the Americas. His leadership demonstrated that survival required not only courage, but cooperation. Even Defy, that lesson endured. Guaicaipuro did not fight for personal glory or conquest. He fought to defend land, people, and a way of life under existential threat. His resistance was rooted in responsibility rather than ambition. In that sense, his legacy is not defined by victory or loss, but by the stand he took when submission seemed easier than defiance. He chose resistance, knowing the cost, and in doing so ensured that his people would not disappear quietly from history. Today, Guaicaipuro stands as one of the great indigenous leaders of the Americas, a symbol of unity against invasion and a reminder that freedom is often defended long before it is ever recognized. His life and death testify to the enduring power of collective resistance and the refusal to surrender identity, land, and dignity to empire. Follow for more history they never taught us in school.